Okay, folks, good afternoon. If we could get started.
He wants to start the meeting.
We'd like to go ahead and get started, please. Welcome the MRRA board members and the other folks in the room to our emergency meeting of September 20th. I'd like to go ahead and call the meeting to order. I apologize, we're going to be, I know I will be a little clunky. We're not used to a lot of folks attending our meetings, though they're public. We don't normally have more than 2 or 3 people. So again, we'll get used to that as we move forward here. We do have a sign-in sheet in back, and you're more than welcome to sign in. There's also a check in the block where you can go ahead and get on our email distribution list. We will also have public comment for an hour. The protocol for that, similar to other meetings, each person will have 3 minutes, and obviously we will be respectful of each other and make sure that we can be constructive in our comments when we get to that portion. For the benefit of the board and really, this is an opportunity to talk about a couple of things, but there are some people in this room that probably may not be familiar with what MRRA does. There's also been a lot of press and other things, and there are a few things that misconceptions that I'd like to straighten out here right from the outset. So I'm going to read from this statement, and then we'll proceed with the next order of business per the agenda. So I want to thank you all for being here today, and I'd like to acknowledge the very, very serious concerns and frustrations that many of you have expressed regarding the recent fire retardant release at Brunswick Landing. I understand the gravity of the situation. We're fully committed to working towards a safe, long-term solution that meets community needs. For those of you who may not be familiar with the organization, and again, there's been quite a bit going on in the last few days in the press and other outlets, just to familiarize some folks with some of the key things that MRRA represents. MRRA is a nonprofit quasi-municipality established by the legislature to manage the transfer and redevelopment of the former Brunswick Naval Air Station. We're tasked with turning over buildings, roads, utilities, and land to the private and public sectors to revitalize the area. Today, Brunswick Landing consists of 27 property owners. We're one of those 27. Once we sell a building or land, it is no longer under our oversight or control, but reverts to the town of Brunswick and other entities. That's important to understand, that we're the redevelopment authority, and for much of the base now, we're not the property manager. We do, however, retain responsibility for a number of important systems, and that's part of this transition. Including most of the roads, stormwater management, the domestic water distribution system, and the electric grid. Eventually, all of those are going to be turned over to the town of Brunswick as well, and other entities, because we have Topsom and other communities that we need to address. But for now, we remain stewards of these crucial infrastructures. There's one thing that I think there was a little bit of confusion, and that had to do with the picnic ponds. The picnic ponds were designated as a stormwater retention system. They were built specifically to deal with stormwater retention and to clean runoff from the airport and other parts of the landing. This system functions as designed and has done so for many years. The ponds are still owned by the Navy and will continue to be. I've been involved in this space since 1980. We've had, picnics, quadrant picnics and everything, and softball games in that area, but nobody was ever allowed to go down to the picnic ponds. And again, it was a misnomer in my mind. Turning to the current situation, the accidental release of the AFFF foam from Hangar 4, we all agreed that the goal is to safely and permanently remove AFFF from the hangars. There's no question. Over the past few years, we've been proactive in seeking guidance on how to manage these systems. And we've engaged in conversations with the Brunswick Fire Department, pool fire protection, and hangar tenants to explore alternatives. We met with the Brunswick Fire Department this June to discuss whether it was possible to just turn off the foam system in Hangar 4. We were told it is required by code to have a foam system in place to occupy the hangars. Since the release, our focus has been on emergency response and cleanup. To date, we've successfully removed the AFFF and wash waters from the hangar, tarmac, and surrounding areas. We've jetted the stormwater drains and removed foam from the affected ponds. All contaminated liquid has been collected and will be safely incinerated at a facility in Texas designated for this purpose. The Maine DEP continues to test the ponds and is working with residents to sample wells in nearby areas. All of us live and work in this community. We are very, very sorry for the concerns this incident caused. We're committed to learning from this incident, listening to you, our neighbors, and continuously improving our operations and communications. We understand the importance of transparency and clear communication moving forward and ask you to judge us by our actions, not just by our words. To that end, in the past few weeks, we've taken steps to engage the State Fire Marshal and the Brunswick Fire Department to explore safer alternatives for fire suppression in the hangars. We've provided studies from the U.S. Air Force supporting the use of high-pressure water systems in place of the foam, and are working with knowledgeable contractors to develop a new fire suppression system that meets the necessary safety standards but doesn't rely on PFAS-based foam. This is not something we can solve alone, and it really is important to stress we need the support of government agencies, fire protection experts, and the community to ensure that we arrive at the safest solution. We're deeply committed to doing everything within our power to find a solution that protects both the community and the environment. All MRRA board and committee meetings have always been open to the public, and the minutes are posted on our website. I guess I want to say, give an apology or thank you to the rest of the board members, because we really do. It's important for us to have the public involved, and we tried to have a meeting a week ago, but we wanted to make sure we did it right relative to notifying the public and having the meeting appropriately. And I yanked our board around a little bit to try to make that happen. MRRA has a small staff of 9 people, and we operate on a very tight budget, but work hard for full transparency and collaboration. The Brunswick Town staff member regularly attends these meetings, and we remain in close communication with local officials. In closing, I would like to reiterate that we share your concerns and are deeply committed to finding a way forward. This process will take time, and it will require coordination among many different partners. But together, we can arrive at a solution that meets the needs of the community, safeguards public health, and ensures the continued success of Brunswick Landing. My colleagues and I look forward to hearing from you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through our normal agenda. This is a MRRA board meeting, so it's our meeting. And then, as we do in every one of our committee meetings, be it a board meeting or a finance committee meeting, we have a public comment portion. And that's when we will allow any of you to come up and ask questions. And really, it's comment. We don't necessarily need to get into a Q&A. It's just we would like to hear from you. So before moving on, did I miss anything?
No. I guess I would just say that we do really want to hear your comments. We want to hear your feedback. We're listening. We've attended meetings at the town council over the last few weeks, and we're hearing you. We share your concerns, and we're taking them seriously. We're taking notes, and we're moving forward to a better solution and to the goal of finding a way to remove the AFFF from our hangars.
I apologize. I already screwed up, so you can tell that this is we're a little out of our element, because we really should introduce ourselves. And some of you don't even really know us. And I'll start with me. My name is Nick Nichols. I'm the chair of MRRA. I live in Bath.
I'm Barry Valentine. I'm the secretary, and I live in Brunswick.
Barry Woods, Harpswell.
Christine Logan, I'm the executive director of MRRA.
John Peters, I'm the vice chair. And
I'm sorry, John. I live in Topsom.
Oh, apologize. John Peters, I'm the vice chair, and I live in Harpswell.
I'm Stan Grasowski. I live in Brunswick.
John Krasnick, live in Scarborough.
We have another board member. David, can you hear me? Can you introduce yourself, please? You're muted.
No. Could you hear Rita?
I don't see, is Rita on board?
On the top.
Yeah, and another, Rita, can you hear us? Rita Armstrong? Okay, what?
We'll just introduce them.
Yeah, so Rita Armstrong is from Freeport, and David Linnae is from South Portland.
From South where?
Portland. I
Port. I thought he said something.
have to figure out how to.
Okay, so we'd like to go ahead, as per the agenda, what we wanted to do was, for the benefit of the board has seen the resolution items. The Town of Brunswick issued the resolution on September 3rd, and we thought it would be important to go through each of the 19, each of the 19 provisions. And I'll start with the lead-in to the provision, just to allow some context here. And we'll go through each of these 19, and if the board has any questions, please speak up. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Town Council of Brunswick that the town strongly requests that the Maine DEP, MRRA, the state legislature, and the governor take the following immediate actions to protect human health, the environment, and economic interests of the community and the region. Number one, provide the town a current inventory of all PFAS-based AFFF stored at Brunswick Landing, itemized by type, volume, storage, system, and exact location on the property. And I believe we've started that, if not.
Yes, and we will have that to the council by their next council meeting.
Okay.
We have an inventory we put together already.
Develop and implement a plan for the removal and disposal of all PFAS-based AFFF from Brunswick Executive Airport as soon as possible. And as I mentioned earlier, that's something we definitely want to discuss in terms of all of the options available to us and the help that we'll need to go through that and achieve that goal.
I want to share this because we're sharing with the
Yeah.
board. So I want to let the board know that we have had 2 vendors out already to look at the hangars 4, 5, and 6, and give us, basically they're giving us a quote on how much it'll cost us to design and install a new foam system. They said, one of the companies said they would have us a quote in between 3 and 6 weeks, and then we'll discuss that going forward and whatever the cost might be. They said it would be around $5 million. That's without without the alarm soundings, so that would be a little bit more over that. So I'm guessing that the other will be in the same ballpark, and it'll be dependent on whether we can reuse any of the infrastructure or not. That's what's going to fluctuate some of the cost. So we have those 2 out. We also had a fire protection engineer that came out and looked at the systems as well. And then we're looking into ways of disposing the current AFFF. So one of the things is getting a new system in. The other is the cost of removing the AFFF and how we dispose of that.
And Christine, you want to we have the Navy in Hangar 4?
Oh, yeah. The Navy is currently in Hangar 4 removing, which was scheduled prior to the accidental release. And so they're in there now removing the AFFF, cleaning out the system, and that should be completed, they said, by October 21st. That's where we are with that. So we do have we're developing a plan. We're looking to move forward and hopefully get that installed. We will be looking to our legislators and the state to help us with funding of that. We do not have $5 million lying around, but we're confident that together we will be able to make that happen.
Okay, number 3, immediately turn off and disable the existing PFAS-based AFFF fire suppression system in Hangar 6 by September 30th, 2024, and all remaining hangars as soon as possible, until such time that new replacement fire suppression systems using non-toxic foam or water-based systems can be installed. This action may require an interim plan for the defueling of aircraft prior to service or storage in the hangars. There's a number of options that we've been looking at, and Councilor King provided it to us just of late with another option that we need to look at in terms of what we can do, mindful of the tenants, mindful of our role and responsibility there, but most important, mindful of our goal to get rid of this stuff. And so that's something we'll be speaking to and seeing what we can do to satisfy that.
Can I mention something
Yeah.
else? So along those lines, in terms of, so we did get a notice of violation that the hangars need to be, the deficiencies taken care of, and they need an annual inspection. And so we actually have met with Eastern Fire, and they are coming out on Monday and Tuesday to do the inspection, the annual inspection on Hangar 6, and to start looking at any deficiencies that are there. So that work will start Monday. And then after they do 6, they'll do 5, and then after 5, they'll move to Hangar 4. So we do have that underway and scheduled for those 2 days. And again, there's a balance around just turning it off, because we do have contractual obligations with our tenants, so we're trying to balance what we can do. We're looking at all options on being able to not have the AFFF in the hangars. So we're not taking that lightly.
Question, Christine.
Yeah.
What's the Navy doing in terms of besides removing in Hangar 4, what are they doing in terms of the system? Are they installing any kind of a specific system at the moment?
Their obligation is only to remove the hazardous waste.
Okay.
And so, and they're not obligated to replace it with anything else. So they're going to remove it. They'll do a wash of the system and the pipes. And we've asked for a sampling. So we've asked that after they wash it out, that they run water through and sample it so that we know that it's clean, because it could be that infrastructure is something that we could possibly use with the new system if it's clean, if it comes back clean.
So the vendors are quoting on all three?
Yes, the vendors are quoting on all 3 systems. And all 3 are different. You know, each hangar is different. Hangar 6 is the newest hangar, so the infrastructure is much newer, and just how it's designed. So.
Well, yeah, Hangar 4 goes back to the late 50s. Right.
Yeah.
Hangar 4 was scheduled for it to be removed. What was the plan? What was the system that was going to be in place after that removal?
So originally, our plan was that we were going to take the foam that was in Hangar 7. Hangar 7, about a year ago, NFPA changed its recommendation that that size hangar's less than 40,000 square feet, and I forget what the door sizes are, but no longer the recommendation was a foam system. So we shut down the foam in that hangar. The plan was that we would, and that's a newer foam, so we were going to take that foam out and put it into the hangar. The Navy would have to remove the foam, then transfer the building to us, and then we would put the foam back in. Since PFAS was declared a CERCLA contaminant, it halted all the transfers to us. So now the likelihood of us getting transferred Hangar 4 in the next, to be years. So, so we won't be able to put anything back in there, any PFAS, any foam that has PFAS in it. So that will be that's on the record of getting a new system put in with either the 3F foam, if that's approved, or something else. Any other thoughts on that?
Okay. Are we all, John, you good? Yeah. Complete an independent investigation and report on the source of ongoing PFAS-based AFFF discharges into the Brunswick Sewer District from Hangar 6.
So we absolutely will be doing that. What we believe is happening there is there was a release decades ago, and if the drains fill up with AFFF, coats the whole thing. In the time there used to be a lot of washing of planes in there, that stuff would usually get washed out and diluted back in the day. We don't do any of that anymore. So we believe what's happening, and we will verify that if we do investigation on that, that as water is going through there, it is picking up residue that is on the pipes. No activities that are going on in Hangar 6 are producing any foam. We're not using the foam in there. It's in its own tanks and it's being held there. So we believe that anything that's coming out is residual from something that's happened a while ago. But we will investigate that and be checking it out until we get an answer for sure and get that verified.
Okay, number 5, obtain written determination by the Maine State Fire Marshal on the current codes that apply to fire suppression system at the Brunswick Executive Airport, including what kind of fire suppression systems and related fire suppression agents are allowable given the specific aviation class and approved use at the airport. And Christine, jump in, but I
Yep.
think you've just sent the beginnings of a report in terms of the usage and how that's all, for each of our tenants.
Yep, we've been in touch with the State Fire Marshal, Greg Day, and have had a couple of conversations with him, and he's looking into what we might be able to do for alternatives. We've asked about the 3F foam, that I know that's one of the groups of new foams that some airports are starting to transition to, some of the DoD is starting to transition to. So we're looking for confirmation from the State Fire Marshal that would be eligible foam for the type of hangars that we have. So he said he would get back to me. I haven't heard, so we're waiting.
Number 6, provide qualified state or third-party oversight of all activities related to the inspection, maintenance, replacement, management, and reporting related to the existing PFAS-based AFFF fire suppression systems at Brunswick Executive Airport until these systems and substances are removed and disposed. And again, I know Christine and I have talked about that. I think that's something we, definitely plausible, something we would definitely entertain, and something we will definitely discuss as an option in terms of, a best way to move forward here. And I think we'll see that again. That's one of the top 7 in the immediate action items. So I'm sure we'll talk about that again here in a minute.
And we have Eastern Fire, who's a third party, who takes care of our system.
Right. So Eastern Fire has been doing our
they're also doing it,
inspections.
but yes.
Number 7, provide the town a detailed plan for immediate public notice, including residents and businesses on Brunswick Landing in the event of any release of hazardous substances at Brunswick Executive Airport that may threaten public health or the environment. Again, this came up at one of the public sessions, and as we stated there, that's something we need to improve on. I guess you want to add.
We're listening. We've learned through this past event, and we're trying to move forward, doing better. We want to be good communicators. We want to be good neighbors. We hope we never have an incident like this again, but if we do, we will be messaging in other ways. So we have the ways that we message now to folks is through our website. We have a distribution list that we send out to notify folks of anything that's happening on the landing. There's a sign-up sheet, so if you're not on that distribution list and you want to be, please give your email address and we'll make sure you get on that. We've also, working together with the town of Brunswick, there's the Notify Me program. I don't know what it's called. System, that's the word I was looking for. And they're adding basically a category that will be the Brunswick Landing. So if there's news or something that happens out here that we need to alert people of, we will send it to the town and it'll be on the Notify Me. So you want to sign up for Notify Me as well, if you're not already on that. So it is important to us that we're communicating to the public. It's important that we are making sure we get that done in a timely manner. So we have that's starting already.
Number 8, provide the town copies of all analytical results and sampling location, maps, figures regarding sampling of stormwater ponds, drinking wells, soil, groundwater, and surface water, including any discharges to the Brunswick Sewer District immediately.
We'd be glad to send it over to you.
What's that?
We'd be glad to send all this stuff over to you.
We have a number of issues at Bath, too. We're all together in this, both on a local and national scale, unfortunately. You threw me off. Immediately upon receipt by the Maine DEP, sampling should continue until levels reach pre-August 19, 2024 spill levels. And I think we're going to
I think
we're
that's,
doing
I'm
that.
guessing that's directed toward Maine MEP because, or MEP.
Right, but,
Maine
as
DEP.
has come out, they're sampling
will
today, and we're going to work and continue to work that on a regular basis to make sure that we get that information and publish it accordingly. Provide the town copies of all inspection reports of the fire suppression and alarm system in all hangars since MRRA took over management of the Brunswick Executive Airport. I know we've done the recent ones, I'm not sure if we've done them all.
We are gathering those, and we will absolutely share those.
Provide the town copies of all inspection reports of all stormwater systems serving the Brunswick Executive Airport since MRRA took over management of Brunswick Executive Airport.
Yep. And I'm going to actually group the stormwater, inspections of stormwater. We have some of those, and we will make it a priority to get those out to everybody. And same thing with everything in the next 3, 11, 12, 13, which is a copy of our SWEP, which is the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, which includes the spill prevention and the hazardous waste. So we will be sharing a copy of that, which covers those items.
Right, so we've
Any
got,
questions on the SWEP or?
so we have existing report, I'm sorry, John, did you have a question? Okay. Number 14, provide the town MRRA's annual operating budget and actual expenditures for hazardous material, environmental response, and remediations, as well as copies of any insurance policies pertaining to environmental release and pollution. The town has access, the town participates in all of our Finance Committee meetings. That information is available there. I'll make sure, as a member of the Finance Committee meeting, that's pointed out, by line item. If you can answer the insurance question.
Yep, we have those documents, and we will share what our insurance is on all the hangars. It's all through Maine Municipal and State of Maine. And we will gather those and we'll get those shared.
Number 15, undertake and complete a full investigation and report determining the root cause of the recent August 19, 2024 spill of AFFF at Hangar 4 and provide recommendations to avoid further incidents. And that's ongoing. I know I've asked, demanded of that of the Eastern Fire folks, if you wanted to add to my...
No, we understand that. Everybody wants to know what happened, and we want to know what happened also. So Eastern Fire is the one that will have to be doing some of that work and investigating for us. We have them working first at Hangar 6 because we feel like that's our most emergent thing right now in terms of making sure those systems have their annual testings done, and if there are any deficiencies that we get those fixed. So we do have some priorities, but we know that it's important to find out what happened, and we are going to make sure that once they take care of the immediate issues, that they will work on that as well.
Number 16, post all the plans, information, and data, including updates on the progress of cleanup efforts related to the August 19th PFAS AFFF spill on both DEP's and MRRA's websites in order to keep the public informed. And that's no problem doing that, and we will do that. Provide regular email updates.
Well, we can't take care of DEPs, but whatever DEP wants to have on their website.
Right, we can't.
But I know that they are being really transparent as well. All of the testing results that are coming out from the ponds, they are posting on their website. So all the information is there, and we'll repost it on our website. They're taking care of all the sampling and all of the testing.
Provide regular email updates concerning the investigation, remediation, and impacts of the PFAS and other contamination to residents and businesses located at Brunswick Landing and surrounding neighborhood. And I know we've agreed to allow people or get on our distribution list and improve that. And I don't know if...
And we will be putting things on our website. So
Right.
As we have contracted with CV and Mahar to do ongoing remediation. So we're taking that seriously. We care deeply about the environment here and about how it affects the community. And so we are already engaged. We've already met with them. They've looked at all of the testing results that we have back so far from DEP, and we'll be moving forward with a plan as more information from the testing and we know where we are with the sampling occurs. So.
Number 18, the town manager shall provide progress updates on the above listed items as part of the manager's report at each town council meeting. The Maine DEP, MRRA, and Brunswick local state legislatures shall provide the town council a report on the statutes of the above listed requests no later than the end of January 2025 with quarterly updates hereafter. And obviously, we'll have to work with Julia, the town manager, and others to work through how best to do that and make that happen.
As we go through all these items and we have any of them to submit, documents, information, it will go to Manager Hensy, and I know that she'll be sharing it, and I'll send it to you as well, Councillor King, and it'll be shared amongst everybody.
Number 19, create a plan to address environmental and human health impacts. And again,
I'm going to guess that that's for the
that's
main
really a
DEP and-
DEP. Yeah, I think we got to remind, and I know I have to remind myself that the resolution that Councillor King and the council put together here is directed at a number of folks, not just MRRA. So yeah, I agree. That's a DEP action. Yeah, and I guess I'd like to say we all need to move forward here to address this. This is an all-hands-on-deck, Maine DEP, state legislature, the governor. We need to get integrated in terms of how we respond to this resolution, and we're going to do our utmost to make sure that happens. Just fellow board members, any other questions? So that's the resolution as voted upon, agreed by the town council. The next item is the immediate request of the MRRA board from the Brunswick Town Council.
Sure.
Yeah, but I was just going to say.
Is that
Councillor,
podium?
Yeah, Councillor King. Councillor Chair King, sorry.
Good afternoon. My name is Abby King. I'm the chair of Brunswick Town Council. Before I begin, I would like to thank Chair Nichols, Director Logan, and the board for holding this meeting and for inviting me to address you today. I'm joined by my fellow councilors. I have Councilors Ecker, Shedd, Updegraff, Watson, and Weems in the room, and Councilor Hicks and McDonald are on Zoom. We appreciate the opportunity to share our concerns today and in person for the first time since the spill. We're here today because on August 19th, 2024, our town was subject to the worst discharge of AFFF to happen in Maine in 30 years, and the 6th worst spill of these toxins in the history of our country. We view the spill as a disastrous and preventable public health and environmental catastrophe, and have subsequently heard from many residents of Brunswick and other nearby towns that feel very much the same. In response to our concerns and the concerns of the public, Council drafted and adopted the September 3rd, 2024 resolution to protect the Brunswick community and the environment from the use of PFAS-based AFFF at the Brunswick Executive Airport. In this document, which was just reviewed by the chair and in your packet today, we called on MRRA, the Maine Department of Environmental Protection, our state legislature, and Governor Mills' office to collectively take 19 immediate actions we see as imperative to the protection of the public health, environment, and economic interests of our community and region. Following that meeting, signed copies of the resolution along with a cover letter written by me were sent by each of those bodies and additionally to Maine's federal delegation. Since then, there has been some progress towards the achievement of those 19 actions. For example, Brunswick Town staff is working with Director Logan, as she said, to improve communications with the landing residents and businesses using the town's Notify Me system. That is up and running, by the way, and it can be signed up for now on our webpage. I received notification from the Brunswick Fire Department that Director Logan had engaged Eastern Fire to complete the repairs on the deficiencies in the hangars, fire suppression systems that we learned about this week. I've also heard from Senators King and Collins and Representatives Pingree and Golden's offices that they are invested in providing what assistance they can at the federal level. Manager Hensy, Councilor Ecker, and I will be meeting with them next week to discuss. However, As relieved as I am to be able to share these updates with the resident of Brunswick, the progress made is greatly overshadowed by the looming threat of the PFAS foam systems that are still on and active in hangars 5 and 6. We have heard loud and clear from the watch groups monitoring these systems that a spill from hangar 6 would be catastrophic for our community on many levels, particularly given the likelihood that it would result in contamination of the town's public water supply. With that in mind, Council has drafted and voted unanimously to support a supplement to the original resolution calling specifically on you, the MRRA board, to take 7 immediate actions designed to mitigate the threat of a second spill and to demonstrate purposeful action towards the improved levels of communication and transparency that Director Logan spoke to in her recent letter to the public. Those actions included in your packet are as follows. Number 1, follow through on the request to shut off the PFAS AFFF fire protection system in Hangar 6 by September 30th. We see this as the most critical first step in protecting the community from a subsequent spill. We do understand that there may be pushback from the businesses involved. Our belief is that this would be a very temporary measure while other actions are being explored. We have heard from many in the community, including those whose industry would be impacted, that they would support and commend this board's decision to put the public's health the top priority. Number 2, hire an airport fire protection specialist to advise on the short-term plan for fire protection in Hangar 6 and the long-term plan for replacement of all other legacy PFAS AFFF fire suppression systems. In support of this action, we have shared the names of 2 highly qualified firms that could serve in this role, one of whom is located right here in Portland. Number 3, continue the timely follow-through on all other resolution requests, including public disclosure of all requested documents. I will note, as was said earlier, that we have received the inspection reports from hangars 5 and 6, and we hope for timely receipt of the other documents called for. Number 4, have all MRRA board meetings properly noticed and return to the pre-COVID protocol of having them at town hall or town halls, where they can be televised and recorded and readily available to the public. Number 5, support and advocate for nominations from the town of Brunswick for any board openings as provided for by the statute. Number 6, request that the legislature and governor permanently reconfigure the MRRA board to be more representative of the local community, including Brunswick elected officials and residents and business owners of Brunswick Landing. We recognize that the board was originally configured at a time when redevelopment was just beginning. We've come quite a long ways, and it would be prudent to consider revisions based on the composition of the landing as it stands today. Number 7, collaborate with the town of Brunswick on public outreach efforts, including supporting the town's Notify Me function with MRRA mailing lists, town hall meetings on the landing, and standing quarterly reports to town council. As I mentioned earlier, we have made progress here in terms of the Notify Me function. The next step would be to continue to expand communication channels as further progress is made. I will conclude by saying that we see these 7 actions as the most urgent components of the original resolution. Our hope today is to leave this meeting with your commitment to immediate action towards the most acute issue, permanent removal of high-risk AFFF from the Brunswick community. Simultaneously, we stand firm in our commitment to the long-term ask, namely a communicative and collaborative relationship between the town and MRRA and full transparency and accountability to the community. We welcome and look forward to further discussion with the MRRA board and leadership toward achieving that goal as well. I thank you for your consideration today, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board members? David or Rita? You guys good?
Thank you.
Councilor King, thank you very much. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is public comment. And the way we've structured this is we're going to allow, my time Nazi is that young man there, 3 minutes. We'll do our best to adhere to that. And obviously, we want to follow, appropriate, respectful guidelines for each other and the situation here as we make our comments. So what we'd like to do is go ahead and let folks come up to the podium, and we'll get as many of the folks in the room as we can, and then we'll also we'll allow some of the Zoom participants to ask as well. Okay, not ask, sorry. Comment. Let me do it. I can just go with Paul. Sorry.
Chair, do you want people to start with their name?
Yes, I'd like to, if you would, thank you. If you could state your name and where you're from, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeremy Guardiola. My wife and I are homeowners here on the landing. As of yesterday, we are 3 weeks away from welcoming our first child into the world. While we are of course concerned for the potential impacts that the recent and future AFFF spills might have on our own health, those concerns are completely insignificant when compared to the seriousness with which we take our unborn daughter's healthy development. We know other parents of young children in our community who feel similarly. As you know, PFAS are incredibly harmful to human health, with particularly devastating consequences for young children. Recent studies have linked exposure to these chemicals with various developmental delays and compromised immune functioning. Exposure during pregnancy may disrupt the growth of the placenta and increase susceptibility for later obesity, diabetes, and liver disease in a child. These chemicals can disrupt regions of the brain that regulate learning, memory, and anxiety. I happen to do this stuff for a living and would be happy to share a summary of the literature describing these and other conclusions from the latest scientific research on water quality's impact on children's biological development, along with a suite of policy recommendations with anyone who is interested. Given MRRA's recent actions, it is hard for my family and others to trust that you and your colleagues will address the situation we now confront with an appropriate level of gravity. You lied about the known deficiencies with the fire suppression system in Hangar 4, and you withheld critical information about similar issues that remain in other hangars that hold this community's health and well-being at proverbial gunpoint. So allow me to offer some lessons that I plan to share with my daughter in just a few years when she is at a stage of moral development similar to your own presently exhibited level of ethical maturation. Lying is wrong. When your decisions impact others, you have an obligation to act with their interests in mind. It is okay, indeed, it is a sign of strength to admit when you're in over your head and to ask for help solving a problem. This is not just about accountability. It is about protecting our families and our future. We need leaders who are committed to transparency and genuine action for the health of our community, because that is what our families deserve. Moving forward, you all need to start acting like somebody's children's life depends on it, or get out of the way for somebody who will.
Hello, my name is Diane Q, and I am a resident of Brunswick. I have two things to say. The first is a simple echo of what I've just heard: show, don't tell, because what you've told us is not to be trusted. So we need to see it. We need to see you do the right thing. The second thing I want to say is this room is not jam-packed and overflowing because it is at a time when people are at work. There are so many more people who would want to be here. So I just want it to be noted that that is part of the problem. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Dan Ankleys, State Representative for District 100. It's a central section of Brunswick that includes this wonderful space called Brunswick Landing. Earlier this year, I gave a short speech on this campus to my legislative colleagues, explaining to them just how fragile our prosperity here is, and it's tough to be back here in this moment as someone who loves our community and cares about what happens to all of us who live here. Thank you to the MRRA board for calling this emergency meeting. I don't want to take up too much time. I know other members of the public have not yet had the chance, as I haven't, to address you all in a public forum since this discharge. I'll just start by saying that the council asks and the council resolution are more than reasonable. And we need to thank Chairwoman King and the entire Brunswick Town Council for their leadership and solidarity in coming up with this 7-point list. Each ask responds to a specific and immediate need with respect to spill response. Each ask is an act of pragmatism and responsibility at a time when councilors could easily and very justifiably be coming to you with righteous anger instead. And you do, unfortunately, need to hear the anger right here in person. I know it's already begun with the first couple of speakers, but it is one of the many responsibilities that come with serving a public purpose in the way that we all do. I'm personally angry. I am carrying with me deep-seated frustrations of all of the constituents who have reached out to me since this happened. And I'm not a bridge burner, so I crossed out a lot of the speech. But I will just say there was an op-ed this morning that I found particularly unhelpful, that looked very choreographed and was smearing Senator Daughtry, one of the best public servants in the state, for trying to do her job. And I didn't think that was okay. But what I want to really focus on is what Chairwoman King is focused on today, and it's that this is your chance to show the community and the entire state that you're now willing to be proactive and to find your way to yes when it comes to the dismantling of these AFFF systems, responding to the fire department's violation notice, and honoring the 7 asks that the town council has made. And remember, they have no choice but to simply ask. They don't have actual standing or representation on your board, though I hope that will soon change. I will step back now and keep my fingers crossed that you will get together and huddle about all of what you're going to hear today and do the right thing, not just for all the people at this meeting, but for everyone who couldn't come, including those who refused to come because they'd been frightened off of this property by the specter of this environmental disaster. And I will just close, last thing, as a legislator, I am aware that we, Senator Daughtry, Representative Golick, Representative Arford, and I, we must deliver outcomes and resources. These price tags are high, so that is what my colleagues and I intend to do. We're not just here to complain, we are here to be of use, and that is what we will do. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ralph Keys. I'm a resident off in the Pennellville area to the southwest of the Naval Air Station. So I said this at the town meeting. I don't believe we are in the aquifer of the spill, but we might be. And 31 years ago, I was in the same position as our friend who spoke earlier, about to welcome our first daughter. We have 2 daughters that grew up on that well, and I would love to see some baseline testing. I have a long history. I recently retired from 30-some years of teaching high school earth environmental science, so I think I know a little bit about this. I'm not a hydrologist. I'd love to know how the groundwater diffuses out of the neighborhood, and I know that's not entirely on you, but you should work with DEP to assure that happens. I also am a small-scale aquaculturist out on the west side of Harpswell Neck, and on behalf of everybody on the east side of it, let's get out there and get some testing done for all those oyster farms and all those wild seafood harvesters immediately and get some baseline data. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Ivan Prescott. I live here in Brunswick, and I'm more here to ask some questions than give a statement like these other people. One, I know that PFAS chemicals have been around for decades and they've been known to be problematic. You know, I've read some stuff about them earlier. And my question is, when the base was getting ready to close and get transferred to the town of Brunswick, what type of negotiations were going on with the town about those sorts of things. I know AFFF has been used by the military. I was in the Navy for 10 years. We used it on board the ship because of the helo that we had on board. So I know there was no negotiation going on. Was negotiation going on about the use of the AFFF and replacement of the AFFF? What was the military's determination about who was going to be responsible for it after they turned it over to the base? Because we've gone a number of years since the base closure, and I haven't seen anything about any of that type of talk. So, and I know that recently, it was just recently, within the last couple of years, that the state decided to make PFAS this huge thing, but it should have been dealt with years ago because they knew that PFAS chemicals were trouble. So what happened? Why was it not addressed years ago? And the other thing I'd like to say is, you know, we're not the only airport in the area. You know, we've got this big old airport down in South Portland. What do they use for their firefighting? You know, collaborate with other airports and try to get these things resolved. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Representative Cheryl Golick. I represent House District 99, which is all of Harpswell and part of Brunswick. Yeah, this has been a really emotional experience. I grew up in Brunswick. I was born right here in this district and watching this catastrophe unroll. So I'm here today to say a couple of things. One, I fully support the Brunswick resolution. I don't think it's too much to ask for. I think things could be added to it. But I'm here to share some stuff because I was out talking to people yesterday in the district, and I made my way all the way down Coombs Road and all the way back up, and I'm grateful that you're all out there testing the wells. I'm not grateful that some of those wells are contaminated, even if it's lower levels of contamination. And I think, you know, what I'm hearing and some things that aren't being discussed I want to bring forward today is we got a lot of small farms down around in this area. You know, we got people raising backyard chickens that are eating their eggs every day, and while they can bring in water, you know, what about their farm animals? Are their eggs contaminated? Is the meat contaminated? We've watched what happened with sludge on farms, and the cows and those animals are worthless. And, you know, there's also a good amount of hunting ground. You know, we got game animals. They don't know they're not supposed to drink in Picnic Pond. We got ducks eating the fish. We got all these things. So I'd like you to start addressing some of those issues beyond well water and contamination. And also, at what level of contamination are we looking at to when somebody else is going to be responsible for bringing in public water? And the other question that I had while I was out is, some of these places have public town water, and they're being told not to worry about it. Well, they're worried, and I think they're rightfully worried. Some of these lines that have been laid have been there a long time. And so they want to know, you know, if what's coming out of their tap is okay to drink, because, you know, it's okay, they're testing it at the facility. And you know, people are doing the testing now. I feel like we're 10 steps behind every day. And so yeah, there's some answers, and if anybody you could be helpful and answer if you're working on those, but they need to be worked on. And the last thing I'll add here is, I think one of my biggest concerns, the way this all went down, and I haven't spoken on this yet, and I know we're all moving forward now, was an emergency press conference should have been called immediately when that leak happened. Not everybody uses Facebook. Not everybody has Google. Not everybody has email. So in your emergency contacts, you got to figure out how you're going to text people and call their homes, too. And if there's ever an emergency, no matter what it is on this base, I would hope that this board takes emergency actions, because I don't feel like you did with this. I had family from out of state, so this personally affected me. Older people with breathing issues that were golfing. Nobody closed down anything. We didn't know for 2 days. And I'll leave it at that, but I would hope to get some answers from the questions that I asked. Thank you.
Good job.
Hi, my name is Henry Hayburn. I'm a resident of Brunswick, and I live nearby off Middle Bay Road. And first of all, I just want to say thank you for getting this gathering together. It's a good step. I really came just to listen, but as I listened and really thought back, a bunch of things kind of got dredged up in my mind. And so I wanted to bring those to your attention. First of all, like others have mentioned, I'm concerned that we have a well. I don't know precisely how the geology works here, but that's part of the problem. I don't know. And so, but quite a while back, I was on a town committee, and this was soon after the base was being turned over from the Navy to the town, and MRRA was being formed. And the committee I was on made some recommendations, some pretty strong recommendations. We spent a lot of time making recommendations to MRRA and to the people who are going to be really in charge of the transformation of the base. And I understood that they had some priorities, which were to make this transition and make it economically feasible and make that switch from a naval base to part of the town. But there was a part of me that felt that there was an overriding emphasis on economic development, and that if you couldn't see it, if it was out of sight, it was kind of out of mind. A lot of emphasis on show and not enough emphasis on kind of the long term and kind of more just longer term and unseen aspects of transforming the base from a Navy base to a part of the town. And of course, the irony there is that, that this recent spill kind of reminded me of that kind of little iota of feeling I had way back then. And this spill, of course, has made me think about that again, and made me think, of course, that the irony here is that I believe that still the overriding goal and purpose of MRRA is to, as quickly as possible, make a kind of an economic transformation from Navy base to part of the town. And this spill will set those goals back a lot. It will, at least for me, it has undermined trust in the organization that is given the responsibility to make this transformation. And it's made me question, and it's resurrected this perception that looks are taking precedence over really solid groundwork, literally and figuratively. So I guess one of the things I really wanted to say is that I hope that this episode will be a one-off, naturally, and that it will bring about what I would think would almost have to be a 180-degree kind of philosophical approach to your work. And really to focus on what is the long-term benefit of, and how are we going to make this a long-term transformation and not simply something which, in my perception, often appears to be what can we do quickly and easily that's going to make it look like we're successful in making this transformation. And that might be incorrect, and I'd like to have a further conversation to really learn more, because I haven't been engaged in this process. I've trusted that the people doing it, okay, I'm done. That's all I want to say. Thank you very much. Thanks very much.
Hi, my name is Caitlin Diamore. I live right in the Wildwood neighborhood, which is directly next to the base. My husband is also a BIW TIG welding instructor, which shares a parking lot with Hangar 4. I spoke at a recent meeting a few weeks ago. One of my major complaints was regarding the communication. And I would, before I get into that, I would just also like to echo what the gentleman said earlier. I have 2 young girls. I have a 5 and a 7-year-old. My husband's truck, along with other people's trucks in that parking lot, had foam on them. Foam was floating into BIW. Nobody from MRRA asked. Nobody came until the following day and said, we need you to move your trucks. DEP went out and spoke with the BIW workers on Friday. Their local union is now following up on that, Local 6. So with that being said, my husband drove home through our neighborhood, drove into my driveway, the driveway where my daughters ride their bikes. They draw with chalk. My dogs run around on that driveway. We all know what PFAS and PFOS does to the human body, and I'm incredibly concerned, not just for my own children, but the children who live on the landing. I also work for the school district here. And so when I think about communication, I want to know, how are you reaching out to all different resources in Brunswick? And I also want to know, for those who are living on the base, and including our new Mainers, what are you doing to reach out to them? Are you using translators? Are you using the Welcome Center? Are you reaching out to the cultural brokers? Because that's really important. And to just assume that people might just know, that's part of your job, overseeing this Brunswick landing. I also have 2 questions. One is, it was stated in the Portland Press earlier this month that Eastern Fire couldn't come out to fix the fire system after they deemed it was deficient and dangerous about 14 months ago. In the article, Director Logan, you blamed them in the article. And now, I guess I'm just really confused. All of a sudden, you are able to connect and communicate with them, and now you guys are working together and collaborating and coming up with a plan. That's wonderful and great to hear. I'm just very confused as to why it took the August 19th PFAS spill to then all of a sudden get Eastern Maine back onto the Brunswick landing. That seems very confusing to me. And then the next piece is regarding communication again. How are you communicating with businesses? Because again, not everyone uses social media, but how are you connecting with all different businesses, all different families, and families that live around the base? Because those of us who live near Coombs Road, we have a lot of fear, and we don't trust you. And I don't really know if anybody can trust you again, because this is our health. And it really appears, this is important for you to hear, that negligence and greed looks like that was more important than human health in our environment.
My name's Sean Halligan. I represent one of the companies that's located in Hangar 6. Sorry for the attire. I was in the woods with my family today and found out about it this morning, so it's kind of a off the cuff here. What I kind of want to say, I have 2 young kids, so I can totally respect the concerns of the locals here for the desire to expedite the removal of this chemical. However, if some of these suggestions get put forth, it would basically instantly cause us to shut down. The aviation industry requires very strict guidelines on what we can and can't do in any situation, and a very short time span of shutting off our fire suppression basically means I cannot work on anybody's aircraft in our hangar. It's been suggested that we might defuel or refuel outside of the hangars, but that is financially unviable, as I don't know what the fuel trucks, I would guess somewhere in the neighborhood of $250,000. I don't know how long it would take to build this unit. And then you're bringing on the potential for spills and a bunch of other things that might be worse than having a potential leak in the PFAS system. Again, I am fully on board with getting rid of this. I just think that this group and the professionals that they're talking with need to be given the time to do it right and not just knee-jerk a Band-Aid solution that does not in the long term work. again, if we had to shut down the form of suppression on September 30th, I would have to basically let all my guys go, and that's very concerning to me. Thank you.
Hi there, Kathy Wilson, live in Brunswick, born here, grew up here, and actually the Navy took my uncle's farm that was backed by the cemetery. So when representatives spoke about farming and stuff like that, I hadn't thought too much about that before, but that is certainly a big issue. I would like to say that I understand that many of us didn't conceive of how dangerous. We didn't think about how dangerous all this stuff could be, and I think that might include some of you. I mean, we knew about it, but nothing had ever happened. And so I'm not going to blame you for it happening, and I'm not going to blame you for not getting to us the first minute, but I am going to say, now that you know, I hope that as time goes on, no matter what happens, that communication, because this is a scary thing. This isn't just like, this is a scary thing. It's a forever thing. 3 or 4 years ago, I gave up drinking anything but water because I wanted to be healthy. And now now I wonder, maybe I should go back to Coke. So checking the town water, I know they say, I was on the council for 9 years. I've been off this year. Lucky me, and I'm going back on, you know. Oh, by the way, my attire is what I use all the time. I'm not gonna worry about that. But, so I don't blame you for not being instantly on top of it, but it was a problem, and a lot of people are very upset, and somehow or other we have to know that no matter what happens. I mean, I talked to somebody the other day who said they worked in one of these hangars and they still, or somewhere here, and they still hadn't been notified. Don't know whether, you know, maybe they weren't listening. But, so I do want the town water, because I know that I forget what you call it, the water underground. Aquifer, yeah, getting old. I know that is over. I know the base is over part of it, and I know we talked about it before when Bowdoin was going to do something over there, and Brunswick Topton Land Trust and all of the walking paths, and I know we talk about all of this stuff. So, and I know the water is there, so I want to be assured from not only, and I'll be on the council, so I'll make sure Brunswick does it, but I want to be assured that all of the water is being tested, because. And the farm animals and stuff, like you say, the deer don't know not to drink at the pond. All right, I'll shut up, but thank you.
Good afternoon. Some of you may know me. I'm Steve Levesque. I'm the former executive director. I gave my life to this project for 16 years, and to the gentleman who asked the question, I'm the guy who negotiated with the Navy on the environmental issues, so you can beat me up. But when the Navy, when they decided they were going to close Brunswick, it's called through the BRAC process, Base Realignment and Adjustment Committee, they made a closure decision, and they closed the base and basically left this facility up to the town and the state of Maine to figure it out. Stan Gazowski was there during those days. We did that. So we worked with the Navy. A big part of that, we had to do a reuse master plan. That was the first thing we did. And there were representatives of the community as a whole on that. There were town councilors involved. There were other folks. Once that plan was done, which took us, a couple of years, I think, then MRRA was stood up to implement that plan. And that plan really consisted of 3 major factors. One of them was to deal with the environmental remediation on the site. It's a Superfund site. There were 21 Superfund sites that we had to deal with on the property. And we had to work with the Navy, and the Navy is responsible for all those Superfund issues. All those Superfund issues. the Navy established a Restoration Advisory Committee. I see Suzanne's here. Worked with them on identifying what the issues were, what the remediation strategies were going to be, and how they were going to remediate the property. We couldn't get any property from the Navy until it was certified that it was clean. We also recognize that there were some emerging environmental issues that may occur over time. PFAS is one of those that occurred just in the last decade or so, and it just became a CERCLA, which is designated a hazardous substance, just about a year and a half ago. So that process, it continues. That will be ongoing, dealing with Superfund sites. Navy in perpetuity is responsible for managing those environmental issues that were part of the historical use of this facility. So that's kind of give you a little bit of context on that. So MRRA is responsible for managing the redevelopment effort. The Navy is responsible for the environmental work. There's a Restoration Advisory Board, which is citizen-driven, which is it's focused environmental cleanup. One of the other hallmarks of the redevelopment plan, and Stan, you remember that as well, is that we wanted to be conscious and sensitive to the environment going forward. I mean, focusing on renewable energy, focusing on good use of the land, concentrated development, so that we could really work on enhancing, and that's really the character of Brunswick and how Brunswick operates. We wanted to reflect those attitudes in the community because the community helped write that plan. We had multiple visioning sessions about the plan, about what it should be. I know there's been some statements, and I've been following the saga, and it's troubling to me. It bothers me to hear some of the stuff that comes out. But 87% of the people in those surveys wanted to keep an airport. Because we had a decision we could have made at the time, airport or no airport, but the vast majority, the large amount of the community wanted an airport back. Most of the community wanted the Navy back, but that wasn't going to happen. So we did, but dealing with these issues is complex. It's very complex. And the whole issue with PFAS in hangars, PFAS, we know it's been an issue with groundwater. The Navy's been testing for a number of years now, probably 6 or 7 years. Been testing the wells around the area because of the former firefighting activities that occurred on the base. Much like most of the airports around the state, they use foam to put out fires. The Air Force, 2 years ago, started taking PFAS out of their hangars. I'm doing some work up at Loring, and they removed it a couple of years ago. The Navy was finally starting to do it here. We started working back when PFAS started becoming an issue. We started asking the questions, okay, what are we going to do about the PFAS in the hangars? We got to come up with a substitute here for that, because the foam was required for large hangars and for large aircraft. So we started working with the state. We had talked with the local folks, and we really tried to come up with, okay, well, what are we going to do? And the Navy says, well, it's not CERCLA, so we don't really have to deal with it. So that was part of the issues that we were dealing with. This is an unfortunate, terrible situation, and I hope that we can get beyond this and develop a good solution, because we do need a good solution to dealing with PFAS. It's in everything you have. It's in probably most of our clothing that we're wearing today. It's in our dishes and our furniture. So it's an issue we got to deal with as a society, but we need to deal with it here as well. And what I would just urge, really take the time to figure out how to work together on this issue, because it's not just MRRA, it's the state, it's the community, and it's the federal government. We need to work on this together. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'm going to allow one more. Sir, go ahead, and then I'm going to see if any of the folks on Zoom.
For sure, yeah. My name is Corey King. I'm the Executive Director of the Bath Brunswick Regional Chamber. Our office was in this building until August for 6 or 7 or 10 years or something. And now we're residents over in Hangar 6. And I'm just up here when conversations like this happen. People they know the businesses are here, and they say, hey, why aren't the businesses stepping up? Why aren't the businesses here? And you have to kind of keep in mind that businesses don't want to say, hey, I'm losing customers over here. Hey, this is really hurting our sales. Hey, this isn't helping us, because that puts a bad image out there for them. They don't want to scare customers away. And so they might not speak up at a forum like this, but I can tell you there are major business concerns. I've talked to 2 businesses that say they're getting calls from customers. Can we come up? Can we come? I mean, if you just, I don't want to name anyone specifically because I don't want to make it bad for any business, but you can see the businesses as you drive around and who's up here. It's not unreasonable to think a parent that sends their kid to a daycare or sends their child to one of the community college buildings is concerned if their student, that's going to affect enrollment. That's going to affect, hey, I'm trying to recruit a worker to come work because we've got so many businesses that have open positions. And if they're deciding between a position in Brunswick and a position in somewhere else that hasn't had this kind of, incident happen. So just because you're not hearing from the businesses because they don't want to step forward and say this, I need to let you know that I'm definitely hearing from the businesses, and this is affecting them. And we won't know the sales impact until we go year over year, from this September to last September, this October to last October, to see what the actual effects are. But the effects are drastic. And so for that, I just strongly want to encourage anything that we can do to get the information out quicker and better. The chamber is here and willing to help. We have a newsletter that we do bi-weekly, citizens and businesses, anyone can sign on to it. Anthony is his name. He's the assistant director, Anthony@midcoastmaine.com. Send him an email. You can get on the newsletter distribution list. I totally threw him under the bus. But seriously, whatever we can do to get the information out, because we want to kill this stigma and let people know that Brunswick is a thriving, incredible place to do business and to live. And so we're willing to help out, and just wanted to share that.
So, Jake, I'd like to allow some of the folks on Zoom to also make a comment. Anybody on the, if you can hear, what's that?
He's got it.
Jake, I'll let you pick.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, and could you just let us
Okay.
give your name and your town, please?
Sure. My name is Megan Kissling. I live in Brunswick and on the Landing. So I am not going to be graceful this evening. I am going to try my darndest, but I am very angry, and shame on all of you, and especially Miss Logan. You couldn't be bothered to show up to the town council meeting the night that this happened. I hope that you were at home in the fetal position crying because of the way that this negligence has potentially harmed our families, our children, our environment, our town. This is unacceptable. And you continue to gaslight us by co-opting terminology such as transparency. You've lied multiple times over the course of the last 4 weeks, and I'm not sure if you know the definition of transparency. You need to step down. You are out of your element. You do not know how to navigate this. And honestly, you said people are coming on Monday and Tuesday. They should have been there 4 weeks ago. They should have been there 4 weeks ago. And the only reason I can think of that they weren't is because you hadn't been caught lying yet. This is disgusting. This is disgusting. And a majority of the board doesn't even reside in the town of Brunswick. So really, you don't have any skin in this game except for your finances, except for your wallets, except for your pocketbook. And I really hope that you all have lost a lot of sleep, and as much sleep as we have who have children who live here. That's it.
Thank you. Jake, next hand up.
Sarah?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, could you identify yourself and your town and where you're from, please?
Absolutely. Yes, I just wanted to make sure you could hear me first. My name is Sarah Woodbury. I'm the Vice President of Policy and Advocacy for Defender Health. We're a Maine-based nonprofit that works on issues of toxic chemicals. And we've been working on the PFAS issue here in the state of Maine for 6 years now. So just a couple of very brief things. I live in Freeport. So just very briefly, the statement that the MRRA Council read at the beginning of this, it would be great if you guys could post that someplace because it was really hard to hear all the steps that you said you were going to take at the beginning of the hearing. So if you could put that on your website or send that out or something, it's been tough to hear on the Zoom, and it would be great to have those steps laid out someplace we can see. In terms of replacing the foam in the facilities, I would urge MRRA and whoever you're working with to make sure that that foam is green screen certified. There is green screen certified foam that meets military specifications. Green screen certified means that you're not replacing PFAS for another dangerous toxic chemical, because there are lots of foams out there that have other nasty stuff in them, and so making sure that you're not, jumping from the fire or jumping from the frying pan into the fire, and making sure that whatever you put in there going forward is safer than what you currently have. And there are organizations out there that can help you make those decisions. Would also urge you to reach out to Randy Krause at CTAC, because CTAC has done a great job of moving away from the foam at the airport there and in the hangars. They're actually a leader on this. And then just in terms of getting rid of what you have, also urging us to make sure that we're not exporting our contamination to another community, particularly since most of the facilities that deal with some sort of destruction technology are near low-income communities or communities of color, and there are no facilities here in the state of Maine to do that. And I would also say that there's no real proof that the destruction technologies right now are not just turning the PFAS foam into aerosolized PFAS, and it's getting out into the atmosphere and doing bad things. So making sure that there's really good looks into the technology that you're looking at. And I recognize this is not MRRA's issue, but I'm sure the DEP is paying attention. The drinking water standards that you're using are the 20 parts per trillion, which I recognize is the state standard right now. The federal standard is not in place yet. Folks have 5 years to meet that, but it would be great if they could notify the homeowners what those standards are based on the federal standards, since there will be new federal standards going into place, and the folks that had their wells tested should be aware of that. And also grateful to hear that the Brunswick Chamber of Commerce is willing to be helpful, and maybe they could talk to the Maine State Chamber of Commerce, since the Maine State Chamber of Commerce has opposed every single piece of legislation that we've had to reduce sources of PFAS in the state. So, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jennifer?
Any others, Jake?
Yep, Jennifer.
Jennifer, can you hear us?
Yes, hello.
Jennifer, your name, excuse me, name and town?
Oh, okay. Jennifer Navarro, Thomas Plain Road, Brunswick, Maine.
Thank you.
I would like to know if we're going to stop the development, because I'm learning more and more about the soil being disturbed and sediment possibly releasing into the air, and there's still so much as we begin to regulate on the PFAS that we're learning about possible lung damages and other issues that could happen. So can we address that somehow? I want some type of assurance that environmental restoration and public health is of utmost importance now. I've really gone through some really traumatic experiences and on well water. We supply our own potable drinking water in, and I was told that they would come and retest my well water, but it hasn't been done. We've done it out of pocket this time around, and I would like to have some help with having that water. I believe it must be over 3 times the national levels. So there's that, and I really want to address the stopping of eliminating the wetlands. Like there's a development, I don't know if it's START or whatnot, but just on the 9/11 planning board meeting, they're pushing through this project, and it's going to take destroying some wetlands. Wetlands are natural purification systems for environmental pollutants, and it just seems like the greed, the amount of concern for economic gains over public health is criminal. And I will not personally let this go, and I believe that there's a lot of other people who will not, because this is forever, and we don't even know what all this will do for our future generations and how long this is going to last, and typically it's known as forever. So I really want to see enforced conservation acts, keeping our wetlands, and stop putting economic development over our health. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. No one else on Zoom? Anybody else in the room have any comments? Please.
Oh, there's one more.
Oops. Ma'am, would you mind if we just finish that? Heidi,
Yes, Heidi Viertaler from Freeport. And I would like to say that, like to echo what Sarah said about being out of the fire and into the out of the frying pan into the fire, and also to make sure that and to echo what Jennifer is saying, I'm making sure that there are people that are paying for this, so that the resident should not be paying out of pocket for any of these types of chemical things, because I don't know if they had the chance to vote on these things. They just were brought in and nobody really did or said anything. Somebody's saying Haley was trying to, she can't raise her hand, but she wants to speak. But I just, I want to make sure that our community, that Brunswick and our main communities are made whole. And I also don't know what the actual, if there's any chance that any of this PFAS is gonna make it through the water, through the river and the estuaries down into Casco Bay, and whether we might be affected by this somehow. I would like to make sure that our environment is completely tested and make sure that we're, I missed most of this, so I don't know what the complete scope of this meeting is, so please forgive me but I just want to make sure that everybody is made whole and that people are really looking at what the alternatives are, so that we're not going, as she said, from the frying pan into the fire. And if my hurricane questionnaire could be useful in this, it's at Heidi JV, my link tree at Heidi JV, or link tree Heidi JV. So I hope that can be helpful to you. And thank you so much for holding this emergency meeting and help making sure that we all have a say in this. Thank you. I appreciate this.
Thank you.
Let me see if I can unmute Haley.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience.
My name is Suzanne Johnson. I'm a. Oh. She on?
Please go ahead.
Okay. My name is Suzanne Johnson. I'm a longtime resident of Brunswick. I serve as the co-chair of an organization that former Director Levesque referenced, the Restoration Advisory Board. It is not a citizen-driven initiative. It is in fact a requirement of federal law for sites that have Superfund contamination issues. Brunswick Naval Air Station has had a long history of Superfund contamination. I'm here to set a record straight about something. References that this property and everything transferred was clean when it was transferred is simply inaccurate. The Restoration Advisory Board continues to exist today. I encourage everyone to come and attend meetings. They are very technical, but the board brings together the DEP, the EPA, the Navy contractors who are doing cleanup, and federal law requires that there be citizen representatives from each of the impacted communities. So I serve as the co-chair. David Page, who we well know, is the representative from Brunswick. Paul Selensky is the representative from Harpswell, and Susan Scow is the representative from Topsom. These individuals are volunteers that spend hundreds of hours reviewing reports, looking at information, gathering what they can to comment on it. None of this cleanup process for the base has been without conflict. There is not agreement on every piece that transferred, that it was safe to transfer. There's disagreements. All of these records are on file at the Curtis Memorial Library. The Navy is doing somewhat of a better job to get these records so they're easily accessible. But please understand that every parcel out here has restrictions. It could be soil restrictions, digging restrictions, groundwater restrictions. And this release of this contaminant, there's no cleanup of it. Sure, they vacuumed up some foam. Sure, we've removed some of this from the environment, but much of this is washing down into marine environments. There's substantial groundwater contamination out here with PFAS materials. The frustration I have are uses of words that things are clean, that there are, no problems out here. There are problems. And when the property was subject to redevelopment, there were agreements made that things could be done safely. DEP, EPA being the lead environmental organizations, and the Navy having to reach agreement about what they were willing to fund and what level of cleanup was appropriate. But everyone here should have stake in what is going on this property and what the cleanup levels are for the contamination that's here. But never, ever assume that this property is clean. It is not. It is a former military installation. And when we talk about this being part of the greater town of Brunswick, please understand the town of Brunswick will be assuming, liabilities forever to monitor and manage this stuff effectively. So we all have a stake in every decision that goes on here, because someday MRRA won't exist, and this is all the town of Brunswick to manage. That's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, we have one more Zoom. And then, sir, you can speak. Go ahead. Ma'am, state your name and your hometown.
On Zoom.
Oh, you're referring to me? Okay.
Sorry. Yep.
I don't know where my hand went, so thank you. So thank you for letting me speak. I would be there, however, I was at work and not able to make it to the meeting. I don't know if you guys can see me, but this is how my skin is, and this has been my skin. Oh, by the way, I live in Brunswick, Maine on Jordan Avenue. So I am the northern part of the base, or the former base, and it wasn't until this past spill that I discovered, wow, there's been several spills in the past, and a lot of private testers have been doing testing, and it is alarming to read and speak with these testers about the elevated numbers in the past. So I keep hearing about businesses being affected. Well, I happened to go to the doctors at Martin's Point the other day, and they, at that time, still said that they haven't even heard from MRRA. And I understand maybe it's not right on the former base, but it's alarming to hear that there are still businesses as of last Thursday, the 12th, that still had absolutely no communication with you guys. So that's alarming. And I keep hearing, finances and businesses. However, I think we really need to think about public health and what it's going to look like for people on the landing and our surrounding communities, because I've been sick. My medical records follow a trail of since I moved in from Jordan Ave in 2008. So I think we need to think of what has happened in the past, where we've gone wrong with the communication between MRRA, the advisory board, our town. I keep hearing the word transparency thrown out there, yet I feel as a resident that why do I have to go on the internet and dig deep for the history of what has happened since we have taken over? So I guess I just want to share my frustrations. I appreciate you meeting, but I think we have a lot of work to do, a lot of communication ahead of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Jamie Ecker, one of the Brunswick Town Councilors. Obviously, I live here in Brunswick. First, a question for the chair. Are we going to hear the board deliberate on the 7 immediate actions that we put forth to the board? Are we going to hear that today? When will we hear that? We'd really like to hear your thinking in that regard.
We plan to go into executive session, and that's probably the number one item, is to go through all that.
Well, we won't talk about that in executive session.
Right.
Because we have a lot of other things to talk about in executive session, but I know we will have another time that we get together and talk about that.
So those asks are going to be talked about in executive session and not, those asks are going to be talked about in executive session?
Through.
We can go through them. We can go through them after questions.
No, I think.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to that yet. Let me have a time. This is the first time we've gotten this board together to go through this. We've made, like I said, we made a previous attempt, but we need to make sure we've respected the communication part of this. I'd like to have an opportunity to meet with the board, and then I'll get back to you.
Okay, well then I'll have a longer comment now. That was a question. I think it's really important that we hear the board's deliberations on these asks. We're not hearing the board talk about this at all. We're not hearing anything out of any of the board members. So I think the idea here is to be collaborative, but also to hear your thinking on stuff. I mean, it's a public process. So I especially would like to hear, since September 30th is 10 days away, what your thinking is about Hangar 6. We asked about this back in early, I think September 3rd. We restated that again earlier this week. Certainly, you must have some opinions about this as board members. Certainly, you must have some ideas. We'd like to hear your thinking about this, given the threat to the community. Thank you.
Agreed. Thank you.
Hello. Excuse me. Yeah, I am going to be very quick. My name is Representative Poppy Arford. I represent the western part of Brunswick, State House District 101. And I'd like to start, I feel the need to thank publicly my fellow electeds, both at the local and state level, particularly those who actually represent the area of our town that has been directly impacted by this catastrophic environmental event. And it has been extremely challenging. And my heart goes out to all of you. My heart goes out to our community. And I have to say, I very much respect the fact that you're here today with us. No one's forcing you to do this. And you're here with us, and I appreciate that. And I hope this is one of the first of many times that we come together to work this through. But there's one thing, as a legislator, that I feel I need to be clear about, is that I represent the people of District 101, Brunswick and the state of Maine, as does my fellow electeds. And we will do, full faith that we will do what needs to be done to protect the interests and the public health of this community. And I just want to put that out there, because that's the way it is going to work out. And I have one question for you that has not yet been discussed. I think if I'm wrong, I apologize. I have not heard any comment about the root cause analysis of the actual event that happened on the 19th of August. I attended the first press release that happened on the base. And at that time, I went to the CDC or DEP staff and I said, I'm from healthcare. A root cause analysis is when an event happens that was very problematic and they study it. They go down to the root and they figure out exactly what happened and they report on it. And I said, will you be doing a root cause analysis on this event? And I was told, you don't have to. There's no law that says you have to for an event like this, but yes, you can. And at that time, based on the people I spoke with, I was under the impression that this would be done. And all I want to say is that
To me, that's the starting point. Many people have talked about trust. For me, the trust will start to be rebuilt when an official root cause analysis is done by experts qualified and certified to do it, and it is reported out to us publicly, so that nothing we've been given yet explains what went wrong. And the problem with that, it could go wrong in one of the other, since we don't know, we're left up to our imaginations. We know that covering over the sensors, which is what the inspections report showed us happened in 5 and 6, the sensors were covered over, they were jury-rigged, but we know that that cannot actually cause the spill because something pushed the stuff out. It didn't prevent it from going out. And therefore, my ask to you, my plea to you, because I truly believe we can heal, but it has to start with the absolute truth of what went wrong in the first place, because only then can we be assured of making sure, using that information, that it never happens again. And thank you for being here with us today.
Okay, thank you. Before you go running off, can I ask a simple question? Yes, sir. I'll do it here. Dave Watson, as Kathy, I was born and raised here. We were born in the same nursing home. We may die in the same nursing home, I don't know. But I can tell you that there's a lot of stuff here that we don't even know about. That is dangerous. They used to have dumps all over the place, and we, as young people, used to raid those dumps. You know, a lot of things came out of those dumps. There's a lot of things that we don't know about that are still there. Be that the case, I prefer to think this is not as an incident or an accident. I look at it as a malfunction of equipment. What's important to me is, most important, is the communication. We need to get the information out as soon as possible. And what we do here, what you do here, we need to do it as a team, but we need to do it because we're going to be setting a blueprint for the entire state of Maine. That's not just the 100-mile diameter around this facility or the 50-mile-an-hour radius, but the entire state. Because this has to be done at the state legislature. The state legislature created the board. The governor makes the political appointments that put you on this board. Now I ask you this question. Are you going into the future, is this board going to be reactive or proactive in your dealings with the community, with the state, the people of this state? Are you going to be proactive in approaching the legislature to evolve the legislation to protect the community so we don't have another malfunction or an incident that has taken place? Is this board not just going to be sitting here? Is it going to be proactive and address the problems that we have? That's my main concern. We can work as a team. We will work as a team. As you see, we have, as a council, as a community, trying to work with you. And we will continue that. But we need to see that same response from you folks.
Chair, I think a lot of people are wondering when we can expect to hear a response to the 7 steps. Is there a plan? Are we to wait here while you all are in executive session and there'll be some sort of announcement? We'd just like to know what the next steps are.
I need to work that through. I will get back to you as soon as I can with our you know, how we'd like to make, what our approach is going to be.
Should I expect to hear from you tonight?
I can tell you tonight, sure.
Ask the board to speak.
Sure. Wait, that was my next step. Okay. So before we do go into executive session, I wanted to see if any of the board members had any final comments before I ask for a vote to go into executive session. John? Let me, David Lene, anything?
No, I'm good to go into executive session.
I haven't asked for a vote yet, but I'll table that for a minute.
Oh, I'm
Rita?
not sure you were asking, I'm sorry.
Rita, did you have anything before I'm just going around the room, around our table before we make a vote? Do we take the vote to go into executive session?
I don't. I appreciated hearing all of the input. I'm sorry my camera's not working. My apologies. But I've been listening intently. Thank you.
John?
I just want to say that I want to thank everyone for coming, for their statements, both here and online. Obviously, one of the themes that came back over and over again was the question of trust. I think that's unfortunate and something that we definitely need to work towards reestablishing.
Stan?
I'm going to have a lot of comments later, but this board, since inception, and I'm looking at some old board members that were put on this board, one for environmental issues, sit right there. Different people out here that have been involved in the process from the beginning. And this board has always been, David, and you know this, proactive in trying to deal not only with the town, but with the impacted communities that we had to come up with for the United States Navy. The impacted communities that were impacted by closing of the space and how it's going to work. And the laws that Congress made that dealt with the BRAC 5 round, which we were part of. And so anybody here that doesn't understand that this board from its conception has always been proactive. One of the three strong points that we had, and that reflected in the board membership, as Steve Levesque said earlier, was environmental. I have a perfect environmental record for the 8 years I served up in the legislature, 16 years. Because this is a very environmentally sensitive town, but it's because of public safety. We had a hard time in the legislature just getting rid of some of the stuff that was in our landfills and dumps, but we were able to do it as a state. We have been proactive. We will continue to be proactive. This is a terrible, terrible problem that's happened to us. But as a team, we're going to straighten it out. It's not a team of just MRRA. It's a team of the town. It's a team of the town council. But it's a team of the state and the environmental agencies in the state. And we're going to be able to deal with this, but there's no sense in me or anybody else coming out and start talking about things they don't have a clue about because they haven't had the opportunity to ask the question or get the answer. I think, as my good friends, the town council that's sitting here smiling at me will recognize, I'd rather give you the truth the first time than try and make up why I gave you false information the first time. And so where you're anxious to get answers right now, I'm anxious to get my questions out and find out the answers so that you can have them. So to answer the questions, David, of course we'll be proactive. That's the only way we act.
I think it's important the public statewide know.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Stan. Thank you. John? Yes, sir.
I want to thank everyone for coming today. And I feel like this was a very important opportunity for us to hear the community concerns. This is a very challenging issue. I also want to say that we certainly want to regain the trust. I think PFAS has been on the topic for us for quite some time, notwithstanding what you might think. I want to say to Jamie Eckert that the comments that I heard today, many of which I think are very productive for us in our deliberations, my main concern is not to rush to a decision, but to reach the right one. And I understand your need for expeditiousness under the circumstances, but I think all of us can understand this is a complex area. There's a lot of interest, and I think we want to try to get it right. Certainly, we do not want to delay or obfuscate or lack transparency, but I think all of us in the room ought to recognize that this is not an easy situation for any of us, and I think we ought to give each other the time necessary, hopefully not much, but the time necessary to get it as right as possible. So I appreciate everybody's coming today.
Okay, so I'd like to go ahead and get a, what's the word?
Motion to-
A motion, sorry. A motion to go into executive session? John makes the motion, Stan seconds. All in favor of going into executive session? At the table, Barry, the Barrys, aye. Nick, aye. Stan, aye. John. David, Lene? Aye. Rita?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And everybody, thank you very much. We have a lot to digest, and we've been listening very carefully. We need to work through this. This is very much a team effort, and we'll continue to work through this together. Thank you.
You have my number?
Thanks for your comments.